Security, escort this gentleman out, please.
Come on, Soda Pop, let's go.
We're all good.
Good morning. Long time no see.
Thank you all for being here this morning. Certainly appreciate it. I'd like to start by acknowledging the efforts of City Clerk Tom Greco and City Attorney David Feifley. Both of these men take great care and pride in serving the citizens of Sioux Falls, and they certainly have performed at the highest level. When you are in public service, you always know the scrutiny is going to be very intense. However, the personal attacks that both Tom and David have endured are not fair, nor were they necessary. On behalf of the city, David and Tom, I want to apologize to you and to your families. The city government of Sioux Falls, South Dakota has a long-standing record of being one of the most productive, most fiscally responsible, and most citizen-responsive governments in America. Our citizens as a whole, they back that up, and they're proud of our accomplishments. They lift us up day after day, and they encourage us to get back into the ring and keep fighting on their behalf. You know, I certainly understand how folks want to ultimately be successful in the ventures that they tackle in life. I mean, it's no secret to anyone that I have my own extremely competitive vibe. At some point in time, though, the quest or the contest, it ends. And you move on, and you tackle other challenges in life. That same thing applies with the city administration building topic. It's time to tackle other challenges that we face as a city. In my 6.5 years as your mayor, there has not been another topic where we've had more collaboration, more due diligence, more dialogue and debate, and yes, more scrutiny than this one. This difficult but necessary process has been going on for well over 2 years. It has been fully vetted, not only by the executive branch of Sioux Falls City Government, but certainly by the legislative branch as well. And as evidenced this week, the judicial system also played a key role. City government in Sioux Falls, though a bit sticky at times, it works. The city government process involving the city administration building followed the city charter, the codes, the policies, and the laws. Wow, not everyone is going to agree with the final solution. No one should say that the citizens have not been represented appropriately or professionally. Over 80 years has passed since citizens and city leaders have come together and they invested in the building that we're standing in right now, our existing city hall. Sioux Falls, it's now our turn to do something similar that will serve the citizens of our great city for an even longer period of time. I, along with countless others, have relayed the virtues of why this investment is a prudent one. It's not necessary to repeat all of them today. However, as your mayor, I want to inform you that our plan is to sell the bonds that will ultimately pay for the new city administration building as early and as fiscally and legally responsible as we can. Our estimate on that bond sale is that it will occur in mid-October. I now want to turn the podium over to City Finance Director Traci Turdback and he will explain the details of that bond sale. Traci?
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon. As Mayor said, we are moving forward with financing for the city administrative office building. He also mentioned that it's been well over 2 years, about 2.5 years, and consistent with the original plan that was laid out that long ago. The project will be financed by the sale of sales tax revenue bonds. I want to talk a little bit about the bonds that will be sold, the bond sale process, and some of the things that go into that sale of bonds. So the sales tax bonds will be sold by a competitive bid process. The city of Sioux Falls historically has used that as a sales process. We believe that achieves the lowest overall borrowing costs. So that will be done by a competitive sale. The goal of the bond sale is to raise the $21.9 million to fund the cost of the project. That's the design, the construction, all the things that will actually go into the project, including the improvements to Van Epps Park and on Dakota Avenue. In addition to raising the $21.9 million for the project costs, we will fund a debt service reserve fund and the cost of issuance, as well as a small amount of capitalized interest. So the total amount of bonds to be sold will generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $24 million. The final maturity in the bonds is expected to be 20 years, which would mean the final payment of the bond would be made in 2036. The timing of this bond sale really, in so many ways, could not be much better. The interest rate environment today is really at a very, very near historical lows, and so the timing is quite optimal in terms of the interest rate environment. In addition to that, the city's excellent credit rating will translate into even lower borrowing costs. I want to talk a little bit about that credit rating. For a municipality, that credit rating comes in the form of a bond rating. Earlier this week, we announced that Moody's Investor Services, an independent firm that analyzes the creditworthiness of financial instruments, and in this case, our city municipal sales tax bonds. Moody's assigned an excellent, very excellent rating on our sales tax bonds of AA2. Now, just to put that into perspective, Moody's uses a range of, I believe it's 22 different possible ratings that they will assign to issues. There are only 2 higher than a AA2. So that indicates very well, I think it speaks for itself in terms of the creditworthiness of the city sales tax bonds. But I do want to dig a little bit deeper and pull some information out of that Moody's report that they issued when they assigned that bond rating. The overarching theme in their report was really, and the basis for their AA2 rating on the sales tax bonds, was the city's strong and growing economy. They cited specifically the positive trajectory of the local economy and growing sales tax receipts as kind of a foundation of their analysis. Some of the specific things that they recognized about Sioux Falls: the sizable and consistently growing tax base. Our population caught their attention. The growth of our population. They remarked specifically, since the year 2000, the last time we had a census, 16 years, only 16 years ago, the city population has grown nearly 40%. They found that quite remarkable. We talk often about the history of our strong sales tax revenues and the strong growth in that revenue source, and that certainly was a key part of their report. The local unemployment rate being among the lowest rates in the nation, and they certainly keyed in on that as well. And the last kind of demographic thing that they picked up on was that family incomes in Sioux Falls are above the national averages. Beyond the economy and the demographics in Sioux Falls, the last thing I want to pull out of the report and mention to you, and this is a direct quote from the report, it has to do, comes in under the heading of management and governance, and it really reflects really a long history here in Sioux Falls. And it reads as follows: the city's management is considered strong given prudent fiscal oversight and the use of multi-year capital planning to accommodate the city's rapid growth. To a bond rating agency, that is just key, absolutely critical to have good, strong management, and not just off and on good management. This reflects a long history and tradition in the city of Sioux Falls to be prudent and responsible with the taxpayers' funds. The last thing I'll mention about the rating, it does apply to these new bonds that will be issued, but it also applies to previously existing sales tax revenue bonds. So they reaffirmed that excellent rating on all of the city's outstanding bonds. The mayor mentioned the timeline on the bond sale. We have not yet set the exact sale date. We expect to make that determination next week, and we will announce that when that decision has been made. The sale, as the mayor indicated, is expected to be completed in the next 2-3 weeks. I expect that there are folks out there in the community that may be interested in investing in some of these bonds. When we've sold bonds in the past, there's been a strong interest from local individuals and businesses that want to invest some of their funds in these bonds. For those folks, I would encourage them to contact their personal financial advisor or personal broker, whoever they would normally go through to make an investment transaction. So with that, Mayor, unless you have other comments, we'll open it up for questions. Thank you. Any questions?
I've heard from someone that works in the financial realm that the litigation that just took place could possibly affect the credit rating for the city of Sioux Falls in the future, or future litigation. Do you have a comment on that?
The ongoing court action that was just resolved yesterday was made, Moody's was made aware of that, so they were fully aware of what had been happening. That was part of our what's called a preliminary official statement, which is essentially a prospectus for potential investors. So that was fully disclosed to those folks and was not a factor in their rating.
And they issued that prior to the judge's statement yesterday?
They issued prior to the ruling, yes. Any other questions? Joe?
Obviously, the 6,400 folks signed the petition, and in court, Tom Greco had said that if correct form would have been used, it would suffice to match the threshold. I've gotten some feedback from readers. What would you say to folks who said, by going forward with this and not having it let the public have a say in it, kind of ignoring the will of a big chunk of the population?
Well, Joel, probably a couple things. And first of all, you don't want to denigrate or lessen the work that went into the petition, or the folks that signed the petition, or the will of some folks, because certainly government is for everybody. We all have different approaches to it, different goals, things like that. But to your question directly, the thing that I think is important to understand is that, this particular topic, though it, had some controversy to it and certainly had its share of debate, every single time over the last 2 years, it passed the vote. Time after time after time, the vote. Except for one time. There was one time where it did not pass, and that was the time that I vetoed it. And I made that decision to override, the decision of the council. Our government process, though, the way that it's set up, and it has a ton of checks and balances along the way. Certainly, it's different than a business. It ultimately allows the elected leaders to do what they're elected to do, and that is make decisions, on behalf of the people that elected them to serve. And that's what we did in this case, and that's what we do time and time again. Joe, I've also had some folks say, Mayor, this is a really, it's an expensive venture. But I think folks have to realize, Sioux Falls, we spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars every year. And again, the citizens rely on the elected officials to make those decisions for them. So Joe, I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Thank you.
Do you want to give us a time, like kind of a timeline of, you know, once the bonds are sold, what's kind of next for the project?
Yeah, the city, of course, before the bond ordinance was adopted, completed what's called the pre-construction phase. So we've got a preliminary layout and design of the building. Now that well, tomorrow, the October 1st date will pass and the project will kick into full gear, the architect and the construction manager will re-engage and begin immediately to complete the final design, get all the designs done, and be prepared to take it to bid. And the exact timeline has not been established yet for the remainder of the project, but that's the first order of work, is to complete the design and prepare to put the work out for bids.
So a contractor was already picked out before the bonds are sold, maybe?
The construction manager, right, had been selected through a competitive process previously.
Has Henry Carlson done any bid letting on their own on this project yet?
For this project, no.
Have you guys, what kind of work's been done? I mean, obviously this was up in the air, it wasn't a settled score until yesterday. But did you guys use that 6-month window to move the project forward in any way, knowing that eventually, you know, you might reach this point?
Well, Joe, I mean, there's been work on this for well over 2 years. And as I mentioned, I've been doing this now for almost 7 years, and there's not been a project where we've probably spent more time and effort and due diligence and work on it. And that included not just the executive branch, but the legislative branch. So to answer your question fairly, yeah, there's been work going on for probably two and a half years. In terms of the, I don't know, the design or construction type of work, I think we leave that in the hands of the people that we've hired to do that. The last thing you want is probably Traci or I getting involved in that type of stuff. But I think those are the ones that they do what they do in the spirit of probably putting the best product forward, whether it be design or building us a building that ultimately will serve us in a big way. Traci, did you? I don't know. Is that all right, Joe?
So when do you guys anticipate this building opening? Completed construction?
Again, if it was me building it, it'd be a long time. Again, I don't know. I think that now, one of the, and if I've mentioned this before to you folks, I apologize. But one of the things that I've learned as your mayor or in this public service role is that as much as you want to look far beyond into the steps 8, 9, and 10, one of the things that you realize is that you just got to take the steps and try to knock them down one at a time. One at a time. One at a time. And even what I found is that even when you've knocked down that step and you're ready to move on to the next one, as was evident with this particular process, you ended up going back and starting over with that step. So Joe, I'm not trying to evade your question, but I want to give you some insight. It's just different. You tackle it one hurdle at a time, and then you move on to the next hurdle. And the hurdle that we've been tackling is having the ability, in the spirit of protecting the citizens that we serve, doing it not only prudently, but also following the law, as well as making sure that we get the best value when we do that bond sale. That we needed that step or that hurdle to be overcome. Hopefully, we've done that. That's why we're having this today. So Joe, my apologies if we're not prepared to talk about, ribbon cuttings or things like that. It's not meant to give you the impression that we're not thinking far enough ahead of time or we're not planning appropriately. But it is different. It is different. And Traci, is that fair? I don't know. You've been doing this a lot longer than me.
Is there a chance that if you guys don't get the bond or the interest rate you're looking for, you won't secure that then? I mean, is that a potential? I mean, is that why you're being?
I think there's a very, Traci and I had a conversation similar to that today, and I don't want to speak on his behalf, but we've got a really strong confidence level that we're going to receive some very, very good rates.
Yeah, I'm very confident we'll get an incredibly attractive rate on the bonds. There is a strong demand out there in general for municipal bonds today, and bonds that are rated at a AA2 level will have very strong demand. I'm very confident about that. So, which higher demand, of course, drives the interest rate down a little bit.
And they're not going to be out there very long. I mean, we found that, again, if you get an opportunity to invest in the city of Sioux Falls, you do it. You do it. And again, that was just one of the reasons why we wanted to move forward at this time. We knew the demand would be heavy for these bonds. We felt very, very strongly that the rate was going to be just unbelievable, and we think it will. As well as we just think it's a very, very prudent time and a solid investment to make. Good job, Joe.
I have another question.
Please.
I understand that the third floor is anticipated to be unfinished at this point to be used for future growth in the future. I believe it was Lincoln County, maybe Lincoln too, that had voiced an interest in perhaps developing that and leasing it from the city. Do you see that as something that could be a possibility, and would that bring some cash flow to the city by them leasing the space?
Well, as part of the due diligence, and even as part of the debate, there was talk about how do we maximize the return of this government building. And it just didn't have to be city government, it could also be collaboratively with county government. Most of the discussion involved Minnehaha County, but that wasn't to minimize the potential impact of Lincoln County as well. You know, especially as we've been talking about this kind of metro government concept that folks like Councilor Kiley and Councilor Rolfing, Councilor Erickson are kind of getting behind. The building, as it's proposed today, will certainly help meet the needs that we have today to make us more efficient, more productive, more service-oriented. But it's being constructed in such a way that it does have room for growth, room to expand, as well as room to evolve, such as maybe finding ways to bring in county governments as well. Traci? Thank you.
And does this change, the city's leasing space right now?
Yes.
Is this changing anything in that terms of them leasing out that space?
Well, again, it was one of the rationale, one of the points that we used in terms of why we should build it. Again, leasing over a short period of time, that's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea for your family, not a bad idea for your church, not a bad idea for your business. It's not a bad idea. But when you lease for a long, long period of time, that's where you kind of struggle with the virtues of that. And in the city of Sioux Falls government, it just is not prudent. It's not getting the biggest bang for the taxpayer buck if you lease for a long period of time. And that's one of the reasons why we want to own rather than rent. And so, yeah, I personally can't wait to get that building built so we can get a bigger bang for that taxpayer buck. Because right now we're spending a pretty sizable chunk in terms of handing a check to somebody, and we're not getting any real equity out of it.
But at this point, you're not sure how long you'll still be leasing or anything until the building is done or anything?
Well, I think we'll plan accordingly. Once, and Joe, I don't know, it was you or Leland, you asked in terms of when will the building be open, but we'll plan accordingly. As we figure out that potential ribbon cutting date, that's when we'll also start to work with the people that we're renting from today and start to get ready to move out of there and move into there, and really maximize this space that we own versus rent.
Are you guys trying to? There's a business down there next
Yes.
to the site. Are you guys working on talking with the property owner there? What's going on?
We have been talking to that property owner since the beginning. And we'll continue to talk to that property owner. But one of the goals that we also have in terms of building the building at that location is that I think that you're going to find that whole area is really going to evolve and flourish and change in a pretty grand way. And the particular business that you're talking about, I would expect some change there as well. That would, again, was one of the virtues of making this investment.
I mean, is that because as this area redevelops, property values will go up?
Sure.
And he'll have more incentive to?
Well, that's certainly one of the, again, business owners or property owners, they do things based on what they deem best. But certainly the property values all around that area are going to go up. As well as there's going to be development all around that area as well in a grand fashion. Again, this gateway into our downtown, as you come in from the north now, and you're coming down one of the biggest, most heavily traveled roads in our city called Minnesota Avenue. This grand gateway, it is going to change in a very, very positive way. And the city administration building, once it's built, is only just going to be one small component of it. At one point in time, I took Councilor Selberg on a walking tour. And I said, Councilor, I go, you look at this property today, but I go, really just kind of close your eyes and just think about what is going to be here 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. That's one of the reasons why you use public dollars to invest in your community. It ultimately really captures the attention of the private developers and the private investors as well. And it's really a catalyst to make good things happen. And we've seen that happen all over. We've done it downtown, and look what's happening there. We'll do it, we've done it at our event center. We've done it in places like the Sanford Sports Complex, and we're going to do it again right here at this location where hopefully we'll have a new administration building someday. Well, I thank you all for being here today, and we'll, as Tracy said, once we know the exact date of the sale, we'll, I don't know if we're going to have another press conference, but we'll certainly let you know. Tracy, any final thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make that announcement. As I said, it will probably be next week that we'll have that date set. And then once the date of this bond sale comes, there is a deadline by which bids are submitted. And as soon as we have that bid information and a successful bidder, we'll make that announcement as well. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Y'all come back now. Here.
What kind of morons run this outfit?